friends, it's Unicorn and happy December. I hope you are having a wonderful day. Today I want to bring you a book review about a book that I read before my latest disappear on booktube or book internet that in September basically, and it is also a book that I highly recommend. It is Beautiful Country by Qian Julie Wang. I'll call her Qian throughout this video. This is Qian's memoir about her childhood. She was told that America is a beautiful country and her whole family moved here when she was 7. And it follows her family's journey of moving to the US and adapting and try to settling down in this new environment until she got into the 6th grade. This is written from a child's perspective, telling us stories from the eyes of a child who knows nothing about America, not even speaking English, and was undocumented, of her observations and also the changes happened to her and her family. And I pleasantly discovered that this book resonates with me more and more the longer I read it. Follow the farewell Qian had to China and the challenges she and her family had in this new environment, the discriminations they got because they are immigrant family, and also the insecurity they had because they were undocumented. And especially to Qian, who is a 7-year-old kid who wasn't able to digest the reasons behind all the changes. We also got to read about the powerful strength Qian had at the time and to survive and thrive and also even protect her family in her own way. On top of that, Qian saw her parents, who was well educated and well respected in China, moving from one hard labor job to another in New York City, and the impact that had on their personalities, relationships, and so on. At times, Qian was confused, but I was amazed at how she can just carry on all the pressure and continue to grow. Like the fact that in this book, Qian didn't shy away from some of the not so bright side of her family's story and presented us some brutally honest stories of her childhood. And this is very hard to read at times, but also those stories are super important because the stories showed us how much an immigrant family are willing to sacrifice in order to have the hope of a better future and how much they suffered in doing so. They're not only limited resources immigrants can have, but also sometimes people can be so scared of any kind of authority figures, no matter those people are related to the resources they're gonna have, they want to have or not, or no matter if those people have anything to do with their immigrant status. For example, youth in America are given the rights to an elementary and secondary education no matter of their status, protected by the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And most likely, undocumented immigrant family won't know about this, or even if they do, they'll still be so scared in school because even for them, a public school teacher is a symbol of authority. So everything they do will be so cautious and stressful. I think everyone who has the experience of living abroad will agree with me that it is overwhelming how much you need to learn of a whole new system in another country. So I can't imagine how frustrating for a new immigrant family to learn a new system that is not established on a language that they know. Qian did an excellent job showing us that aspect in her life from her childhood eyes, how her family was struggling to make a living, how her family learned the new system, how America works, how her family will struggle with their own identity. In the book, she shows her confusions, questions, and realizations about her identity, and it is amazing. The chapter I loved the most is related to names, specifically how she found out that people was addressing her by her name. And this is also the chapter where I'm most related to, because not only Qian found out that she has a name that is hard to pronounce for English-speaking people, but also she found out people only call her by her first name, which was a shock to her. Qian pointed out that to her, by people only call her by her first name, she feels like she has lost her last name on some sort. And by losing a last name, you kind of lost some of connection and some of the relationship with your motherland at the time. And also in Chinese culture, last name is very important. It's kind of related closely to your family. So it's such a different contrast compared to how people handle names in America. I think this chapter connected with me on a very personal level because although I'm still identifying myself as a foreigner who lives in the US, a Chinese who lives abroad, I have been here for a very long time, and I'm not very used to people calling me by my last name anymore. If a person calls me by my full name, so my first instinct will be, oh my god, how did I wrong that person? They're like coming at me for revenge. But that's not the case in China, so most likely I'll have my Chinese friends who call me by my full name. So without knowing that, my identity has already shifted by the years that I lived abroad and by how people address me and also by what language I use. So the changes of identity has carved in my life, no matter if I realize it or not. So this is why I appreciate how Qian was able to present feelings like this accurately in her book. And I think this book is worth reading, well worth reading for a lot of things like this. Especially it is written in a very genuine way, in a very clear and lyrical language. Speaking of the language of the book was very clear and precise, and in the same time it's also expressive and beautiful. She mentioned in the book that after she learned English and devoured all the books she can find in her library, which by the way is also one of the thing that she did to cope with the first few years living in America and feel lonely. She was accused by one of her teachers of having other people doing her homework because, according to the teacher, the homework was written too good to be written by her. This is extremely problematic coming from anybody, not to mention one of her teachers. And later on, when I was watching one of the interviews she did for this book, she mentioned that she had at least 2 other encounters where she was questioned by the teachers or professionals because of her work, because they didn't believe that she writes so well. Well, this is devastating to think about. The story tells us how good she is as a writer, and this book really shows it. Besides the wonderful writing, Qian also has a remarkable abilities to play with words. In this book, you can find that sometimes she addressed to certain object or people by pinyin, which is a romanized type of Chinese in typing. And the use of pinyin is correspondent with how much she know English and know America as a country. So it was used more in the beginning of the book and used less and less as she grew up older and also know more about English and America. This little attachment is very fascinating to think about when you are reading the book. But if you don't speak Chinese, don't worry though. It's not a lot, so I don't think it will affect your rating. If anything, I think it will make your rating more interesting. I was shocked when I learned that Qian wrote the whole book on the subway to her commute every day, and I think this is another evidence to show that how much strength Qian has as a person. Another thing I want to address here is when I was reading the book, apparently I cannot set aside the fact that I am Chinese and how that impacts my reading experience of this book. Oftentimes, when I read book about China by a immigrant who immigrant from China to other countries, or like second, third generation of immigrants, I feel like I have the feeling that I can partially recognize the China and Chinese cultures that they described, but it will be very hard for me to make a connection with the China under their pens. However, in this book, that wasn't the case at all. I feel like the China Qian described is relatable, is something that I can connect to. It doesn't feel dated at all. I feel like mostly because we are the same generation, so where our memories of childhood are kind of similar, especially we are both from the same part of China, which share some of the cultures. We are both from the central north part of China. If you didn't know that China is like so big and the cultures in different places can be so different. So in her book, China is a very vivid image that I can imagine and relate to, and I really liked it. But at the same time, our experiences growing up is apparently very different. I grew up in China, she grows up in America, and she went through countless of difficulties to survive. I think it is a reminder to all the people who didn't need to go through that in their childhood, that how hard people would willing to work and how hard it is to establish a new home in a brand new region where you need to learn from the scratch. I don't think there's any flaws that I can think about this book, but initially I give this book 4.5 stars because I just don't like the idea of interpreting the Chinese name of America as beautiful country because it's purely translation by sound. You don't really see British people going on to say that the Chinese name of England is called a handsome country, or like you don't see French saying that they're the justice country, nor German will tell you that they're the ethical country. It's only in America where I see people interpreting America into beautiful country. I actually got this cringy feeling every time when I see people saying that the Chinese name for America means beautiful country, because I feel like I have seen people who have done it before because they don't really know the history behind the translation of the names, and also they've been very happy about it and also being condescending. But the longer that I have read this book, the more I feel like this is the case where I should put my own bias aside and accept and understand why beautiful country as a concept is it's a very important part for Qian's childhood. Because this is by no means a glorifying the term of America in Chinese. This is a concept she's told, the hope she's got at the age of 7 that she is going to a beautiful country and having a bright future. But instead, she and her family experienced so many struggles and in the contrasting of this term of beautiful country. And she was able to grow out of it, and that's why her story is so admirable and so powerful. So now I've changed my ratings of this book to 5 stars, and I really loved it. I think it is such a brilliant memoir of her childhood. But do note that her story stopped when she entered middle school, so if you're curious about the story after that, she didn't really say much. I hope she'll continue writing about her stories after middle school, and I think that would be fascinating. And there you have it, my review for the book Beautiful Country by Qian Julie Wang. Let me know if you have read or heard of the book and what's your thoughts about it. And don't forget to say hi in the comment section down below. And please let me know what books are you reading right now, because I miss you all so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thumbs up if you like it. Happy reading, stay healthy. I'll see you in my next bookish video. Bye!